I just wanted to give you some personal observations. I tried to think about the subject of dialogue too, and what you need to do it, and to relate it to my own life. I grew up in Boston. All my ancestors came from Boston, and despite my name, they all came from Ireland in the middle of the 19th century. Yet I spent my whole life in a kind of personal intercultural dialogue. I met my wife when I was in the Army in Germany. She was born in the United States, but grew up there. We have 2 children. Our son was in the Peace Corps and has a Dominican wife with 2 Dominican-American children. My daughter, who worked in public diplomacy but not in the State Department, is married in Morocco and has a Moroccan-American son. Of course, on my wife's side, her family are all German. And my sister is married to a Spanish Republican who's lived his whole life in Venezuela, and I have 4 Venezuelan American nieces and nephews. So I've been pretty busy with intercultural dialogue in my family, I can tell you. But for myself, well, first of all, as an undergraduate, which you might be surprised to learn was not in the 19th century, I majored in anthropology, and I discovered, of course, that all cultures are valid, all deserve respect, and that they all make sense in their own terms if you understand them. When I got to graduate school, I did a degree in Islamic history and Arabic literature, and I learned a great deal about Islam, and of course about all of the cultural aspects and religious aspects that went with Islam. So I've spent, I guess, 21, 22 years in the Arab world and 10 years in Europe. So I guess I've had more than my share, and I've survived the intercultural dialogue, so it can be done. But so I tried to give some thought to this subject, and I thought, well, first of all, intercultural dialogue just doesn't come out of thin air. There are a couple of basic concepts that absolutely underlie it. And the first one, of course, is tolerance. And I think we're only recently, in recent decades, learned in the United States the price we have paid in the United States for the history of intolerance towards our African American and Native American fellow citizens. We've begun to realize that. And tolerance is something we're still struggling with, I think, in the United States. There's one organization I know I've contributed to for many years, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has worked against racism of all kinds. And when the last thing I really did working full-time, I was lucky enough from 98 to 2004 to be the director of Radio Free Iraq, which was just starting up then, part of Radio Free Europe. And you'll be happy to know I got to live in Prague for 6 years, which was pretty nice. But of course, towards the end of that, or past the middle, suddenly we weren't trying to bring truthful information until we get through the barriers of Saddam's Iraq. Suddenly Saddam was gone, and there was a whole new ballgame in Iraq. And as part of Radio Free Europe, besides giving objective news and analysis, it was also our job to encourage democracy, human rights, and such values. But I told our people there that we had another job in Iraq, and that is the value we should preach the most of all is tolerance. For example, in Kirkuk, we tried to make a point. We would have round tables. We would have one Turkmen, one Kurd, one Muslim Arab, and one Christian, and try to keep these, because at that point people were starting to kill each other in large numbers. So first, you can't have a dialogue if you don't start with tolerance. That's basically. Secondly, you go beyond that, you need to have an atmosphere of respect for other people. Tolerance is, in some cases, only a passive value, I think, but you have to have respect for other people. But these are absolutely fundamental in any society that respects human rights and the rule of law. And when you have these 2 bases, then it really is possible to have a cultural dialogue or any kind of dialogue. We have many organizations in the United States that try to do this. But we have to work at it, and we have to understand that other people are valuable, that you can believe you're right without assuming that other people are wrong, that other people also have the privilege of believing that they're right, and you should respect them. And I must say, to bring it home, I was fortunate enough to be invited by the predecessor organization here in Maryland, the Maryland Institute for Dialogue, on a trip to Turkey. I have to say, although I lived in the Middle East for 22 years, I never served in Turkey, but I visited the country 7 times, so I don't know if anybody's visited, and maybe these were not long trips, but it's a fascinating country, and I really liked it. And I must say, on this trip, I just have to say, and I compare this to the Arab world, I saw the right kind of religion. I saw the kind that strives to make a better world while respecting the rights of the beliefs of other people. And I could only hope that that these Muslim beliefs, and I think the selfless actions that I saw, and I have to say, relating to this video, inspired by a remarkable thinker and teacher, that they could reach the Arab and South Asian worlds as well, where intolerance, as we're seeing, is only far too prevalent, and violent intolerance is only too deadly. So on that, I'm sorry, that rather somber note, I think this is really a worthwhile effort. It is not a passive effort, intercultural dialogue. It takes a lot of work. It takes an open mind. It takes an atmosphere of tolerance. And it takes a positive attitude of liking or loving your fellow man. Thank you very much.